Alright guys, let's create a checkbox up here that when you check it, you will see all of the notes on the fretboard at the same time. When you uncheck it, they will go away and it'll be back to normal where you can hover and see the individual note names. So to do that, right here in our HTML, we're going to add another input. And we want that input to be a checkbox. So let me first just make a label for it. Label for, what should we call it? Show all notes is a good name, I think. So label for show all notes, and we can call it show all notes. Like that. And then we just want to make the input underneath. And we want it to be a checkbox. And let's give it an ID of, oops, show all notes. All right, let's see if it appears. So it's right here. It's not too pretty. I can just add something here in the just label, just margin. Left and right. Let's just add it on the left and on the right. So 0, 10 pixels. Like this. Looks a little bit better, but still not too good. And of course we need to get a hold of it here. So let's grab it. Let's call it show all notes selector. Document query selector. What did we call it? I think we called it show all notes. Okay. So the show all notes selector, we can take that and we can add an event listener to it down here with all the other event listeners. So add event listener. And we want to add a change event that fires every time it changes. And we want to have this callback function do something for us. We're actually not going to need the event right here. So yeah, let's skip that. So let's think about this a little bit. We want to find out if it's checked or if it's not. A way of doing that is we can just put in an if statement here. So if the show all notes selector, if that is checked, we'll get a boolean, and if it's checked, we will get true. If it's not, we will get false. And let's just create the else statement. Okay, so the way that we can do that is we can access the CSS. We can go up here and we can set the note.opacity to 1, and that will make all of them show at the same time. So like we did before, let's go to root and style and then set property. And then let's set the property of, that's the variable here, note.opacity. Note.opacity. And let's set it to 1 because we want to show them all. Let's just check if that works. Check what's going on here. Let's go back to the browser. Still works as it should here, but when I click this one, nothing happens. And that's really not that weird because I misspelled style. Let me save it again, go back and see what's happening. Let me hit this show all notes. And something is definitely wrong. It shows some notes. It shows, you know, I can still move my cursor around and I'll mess up everything here. Let me just try to refresh this and then click show all notes. Okay, I get all notes now. But if I move down my cursor, some of them start to disappear. And that's because we still have the event listener on the whole fretboard. So it's still adding the dots and removing them when we move the mouse pointer over. And that's not desirable. So we want to, when this one is active, when this one is true, when this one is checked, we want to remove the event listeners. Let's go back to the code and see how we can do that. But let's first, right here, we know that we want to set the opacity to to 0. So I'm just going to copy this one here and put it here. And let's put 0 instead of 1, like that. I'm just going to reload, and it should work now. So I turn it on, I turn it off, and I see all of them, but I'm going to mess it up as soon as I do this. See? Okay. So in order to do that, as I said before, we need to remove the event listeners that we have up here in the fretboard. So this one right here. The mouse over and the mouse out. But we can't do that. We can't use a remove event listener on it right now because we need to put the callback function in its own function. So I think we should start by creating those. Let's, just above here, I want to add another one. I want to add a method called show note dot. And I know that we're going to need another one to hide it. So let's hide. Let's call it hide note dot. Make it another method like this. All right. So in this show note dot, what I want to do is actually I want to take all of this stuff down here. We're still going to add the event listener here, but then this function here, we're going to move that up here. So I am just going to take this whole thing here. If the event target class list contains this, then we're going to do something. I'm going to move it up here and do something about it. Then I'm going to remove it from here. And instead of having this one, we are just going to pass in, just going to do it like this. So we're going to pass in the show note dot. So it's on the same object. So this show note dot. So it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to just go to this method instead and do what it has to do there. And we need to do that because we need to have it separately if we want to remove it. And we want to remove that event listener as one of the next steps. But before we do anything, let's do the same for this one here. First of all, of course, we are using the event here, so I need to pass it in. So event like that. So in the height note dot, we also need the event. Let me type that in. And we're going to take, on the mouse out, we're going to take this whole thing here. Let's just take this one here. Got to cut that out and put it up here. And then I am going to delete this and refer to the height note dot method. Okay. So now we have it separated. We're still doing the exact same thing. So let's see if it still works. There's something still going on, so it looks like it's working. Of course, we still have a problem with this. So it's still working. You can turn it on and off, but there's still a problem. So let's find out how we deal with that problem. So down here in show all note selector, we need to remove the event listener. So we have an event listener up here on the fretboard. It is, where is it? Right, this one here. So I'm just going to take this, just going to copy this because it's almost the same. And down here, we are going to remove the event listeners. So instead of add, I'm going to type remove. The same here. So they should not be active anymore. Let's see if something is going on. So this one here, well, nothing is happening now. But if I do it before, if I start messing around here and I click it, then there's something wrong. But if I reload it and I just click on this one, well, that works. If I hover over, nothing is happening. So it removed the event listeners. But we also want to re-add them back when I remove this check mark. So back here in the in this one, we would just want to take these. I'm gonna put them here, and then we're just gonna re-add them here. So add event listener and add event listener. So this should work, right? So it works like this. I'm gonna show all notes. Whoa, wait, it doesn't work. What's wrong? Why doesn't it work? I just that's because before you do anything, before you remove the event listeners, you actually already set the opacity of the individual note dots here. So we need to go ahead and set up the fretboard one more time. So here, after we do this, I'm just gonna go this, set up fretboard, and we're gonna need to do the same down here, like that. And hopefully that should work now. So I'm gonna hover over, play around. I'm gonna click this one, and well, they're all displaying. That's good. I'm gonna remove it, and they're all gone, and this is back. So that's how we can do that. We just needed to remove the event listener, the callback function for the event listener, to its own separate function or method in this case. So in that way we can remove the event listener. So that's all for now. We have another setting in our settings bar up here. If you check this, you can see all of the node names, and you can still change it to bass, to ukulele, whatever you want. You can change it from flat to sharp because we're setting up the fretboard every single time. So it's going like this, flat, sharp, flat, sharp. You can remove it. We can still, while it's on like this, you can change the number of frets. It's just gonna add the note names. In the next video, we're gonna experiment a little bit with showing all the same kind of notes. So if I hover over a G, I will see all the G's on the fretboard. If I hover over an E, we'll see all the E's on the fretboard. And that's pretty useful for, yeah, if you don't know your fretboard very well and you're trying to memorize where all the E's, the F's, the C's, the B's, the B flats, whatever, where they are on your fretboard. So we're going to try to play around with that in the next video. Please join me.